And we're learning this morning that the Constitutional Court reportedly has asked President Yoon to submit a written statement with answers by next Monday ahead of his impeachment trial. We turn to Professor Lee Hee-eun for more. Good morning, Professor Lee.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what exactly are these written answers that the court is asking for?
So basically, when you have an impeachment process like this, you have a impeachment petition that will be delivered to the president in this event. So since the impeachment itself happened over the weekend, the earliest date by which the impeachment petition itself could be delivered to the president would be, of course, on Monday. And so in this case, when the impeachment petition is given to the president, there are responses that he can give as a result of the petition. So he's been given, in this case, 7 days to respond.
Right.
And in terms of the actual process, there's no requirement for him to actually to respond to this, but it's a formal process by which he's put on notice by the court that the impeachment trial will begin.
So he has to submit a statement with answers. Now, another big judicial date for President Yoon is December 27th, when the court is poised to hold a first hearing on his impeachment trial. Now, we are exactly 10 days away from the first hearing date. What is this preliminary hearing and why is it an important one?
Right. So after he receives the petition, now he's on notice that you have a trial date, or at least a trial preparation date. And the 27th has been designated for that point. And that is basically to assign the date to organize various kinds of procedures, for example, the arguments, the evidence and issues for the case in anticipation of a full impeachment trial. So this date is important because it is the date of preparation for basically the oncoming trial that's going to happen over the next 6 months or so, potentially. So as a result, this really is a formal date to put the parties on notice, but also the court is now putting into motion the whole dates for the trial and the trial process itself. So it's a date of preparation, essentially, for the trial to actually begin.
I see. And it's also been reported that a Yoon-appointed judge, he is Cheong Hyung-sik, has been named as the presiding judge for this case. Now, this is a key role for any case, right? Presiding judge.
Right. So the presiding judge, basically, you can think of as a chief administrator for the whole trial process. So the judge himself, in this case, really doesn't have any impact on the actual result of the case. I think people are trying to figure out whether or not he will have any influence in terms of the actual outcome because he was appointed by President Yoon. But basically, he's an administrator in terms of the trial process. So every judge, of course, will have their independent vote in terms of whether to determine whether he should be convicted in terms of the impeachment. So the presiding judge basically handles a lot of the sort of roles with respect to, gathering of the evidence, appointing certain people, and then making sure that the trial process runs smoothly. So the presiding judge is a key role, but in this case, it really doesn't have, this person won't have any direct impact on the actual outcome of the case.
So more of an administrative chief, like you mentioned. And to defend President Yoon, there will be a former Korea Communications Commission chief under President Yoon Suk-yeol. He is Kim Hong-il. Let's talk about him and also Yoon's legal team.
Right. So Chairman Kim, as you noted, he's the former chairman of the Korea Communications Commission. And so in this case, President Yoon has tapped him basically to lead the defense team that will defend him at the impeachment trial. Now, Chairman Kim has had a long, distinguished career in the prosecutorial service. He served also as the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, and then chairman of as I mentioned, the Korean Communications Commission, but also served as basically chief of the Daegu High Prosecutor's Office, as well as providing, basic assistance with respect to various kinds of activities for the president over the course of his career. So he's obviously a very trusted person for the president. And, he's going to draw upon, of course, I think, a number of key high-level former prosecutors that will be brought in to defend the president in the impeachment trial.
Definitely. Now, Yoon's also under, mounting pressure from the prosecution, also the joint investigation team now, which are trying to summon him to for questioning over the martial law declaration. Now, which of the two do you think he is more likely to appear for? The one filed by the prosecutors or the one filed by the joint investigation team?
I think what you're seeing here is a classic sort of jurisdictional turf war, right, between the different investigative agencies.
Right.
As you mentioned, there's the Corruption Investigation Office as well as the prosecutor's office. Frankly, it's really hard to imagine, and as you reported, this would be the first time if he's in fact summoned and forced to actually be questioned. He'll be the first sitting president to ever be subject to a criminal probe. And so at some point, it's really hard to imagine that he'll actually go through with it. But I think under the law he must appear. So if you were given a choice between the prosecutorial service or the Office of Corruption, I think you have to imagine he would prefer probably the prosecutor's office, given his longstanding career as prosecutor general, and of course basically his subordinates who were his juniors in that office, whom he at least has some acquaintance with. So I think he would probably prefer going to the prosecutor's office if he had to give it a choice.
All right, Professor Lee, thanks so much for connecting with us again this morning. We appreciate it. You have a good one.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.